Hi, I'm Quincas, and I'm a synth DIY guy, and I'm a bass player as well. And today I get to combine my two passions, the bass guitar and the synthesizer gear in the form of Erica Synths and 112 dB's Echolocator effects unit. This is a very advanced delay unit with the heart of a plug-in, but the body of a very, very nice tactile instrument with a bunch of physical controls for a number of parameters that you normally don't find even on a plug-in, much less on a hardware unit. So this is a follow-up video for the previous one that I did on the Night Verb. This is the sister unit of the Night Verb, the Echolocator. It's made on the same form factor, same chassis, same kind of knobs and controls, but this one has slightly different graphics. It has this nice little scary bat there. It's focused on a delay rather than reverb, although both units can do a little bit of the other one's thing. So this one has a little bit of reverb too. The Night Verb can also mimic some delays in some settings, but this is definitely focused on the delay aspect of things. So let's go ahead and start fiddling around and having a look and play and listening to what it sounds like, what it can do, etc. So this is the simplest preset, number 19, Great I. There are a number of factory presets with really cool programming here, but we're going to start with Great I. I changed it a little bit to make it even more simple. So first you have the dry wet, right? So here's the dry sound. And here's when you start getting wet there. Right, and of course you have the feedback control, which is the amount of repetitions, so you can make it go infinite. And you have a filter here. Right now I have it routed to the main signal path, so it's affecting the entire thing, but you can also route it to just the feedback path. Right, so this is the cutoff, and this is the filter quality or bandwidth, right? So here you can have very narrow bandpass kind of filter. Right, as you approach the 100 here. And you can also have a wider band. And if you put it to 0, then everything passes. The cutoff affects very little. It does affect a little still, but not so much. Right? The middle position is nice. Give us a little bit more resonance as well. Right? So right now I have 50% reverb. We can turn off the reverb and let it just be delay. Let's turn the feedback back a little bit so we can. As you turn the time, it acts like a tape in the sense that the pitch will also be affected. Check it out. Trippy, right? It's like a rubber band sci-fi effect. Alright, so that's like the obvious stuff. Feedback, time, dry wet. Now reverb is already not so obvious, right? the feedback here a little bit. Now ping pong is the stereo control, right? So if I leave it in the middle, right, it's centered. If I put it to one side, you start getting that ping pong. See, I do recommend you wear headphones for this, or at least some studio speakers. Otherwise, you're not gonna really get that stereo idea. And you can turn it to the other side, so that the first repetition is on the other side. And you can also have it in an intermediary position, so it's not so hard panned, right? More subtle. Okay, still stereo, not so radical. So now we have modulation. The modulation is going to affect the time, right? So here we have the depth and speed. And in the family of modulation here you have the orbit, which is kind of a higher frequency turbulence. Okay. That's also affected by the mod speed and depth controls. So it's these three together are the modulation controls: orbit, mod depth, and mod speed. Now, in fact, when you use a fast delay time, these become like a flanger or a chorus effect, depending on what you have going on here. Have some more reverb there. Right? So cool. So that's modulation. We have the filtering, right? Modulation, orbit, dry, wet, feedback, time. Now we have shimmer as well. Shimmer is a added pitch shift, right? So if we add 50% of shimmer here, we start hearing this higher pitch up in the high register. So now you start getting into real ambient territory, right? You can really turn your bass into a modern digital synthesizer. As I play around with that filter, it's even more synthy-like. This is another level of synth bass, right? It's not just a mogy, funky bass line thing. You can do this crazy ambient pad-like stuff. Let's add some reverb there. Right, now the pitch shift isn't limited to just the octave above like this. You can have weirder intervals too. Slightly more unsettling. And it can go down. In fact, it can go all the way down to another octave here. Now, some of these parameters have options in the menu. So most things you can do on the panel controls, but if you press the back button here, you get into menu. There's some patch options here, and there's the effect options. Now in the effect options, you can go to Shimmer here and change it from Shimmer A to Shimmer B. Shimmer B is a little more radical, because you can get a full mix of only shimmer, right? So Shimmer A, at 100%, you get still some dry signal there, or some dry delay rather. With Shimmer B, you get this craziness right there. Right, let's go back to Shimmer A. And at 50, it's a nice mix for me. So you get some of that normal repetition before the shimmer there. Okay, a couple other things you can do here. One of them is the dirty mode. Dirty mode changes it from the tape simulation, which is very smooth and clean, to kind of a bucket brigade simulation, which is noisy and dirty, which in fact can even get into kind of like bit crushy territory, see? Like glitchy digital dirty stuff. Even without the shimmer, right, filter it a little more. Right, so that's with dirty mode on. Let's turn it back off. Now, a couple of things you can do here. Compressor. The compressor is so it's kind of a side chain on the delay, so that when you play, your direct sound takes precedence, and then when you stop playing, the delays take over. We have the setting of 49 there. We can go to all the way to 100 here. And then if I add like a crazy feedback there, you know, even add some shimmer at 12. When I start playing, you really still hear my dry sound, right? It's amazing for sound design. Who knew a bass guitar could score a scary movie or like a sci-fi, right? Well, this thing you can. we're gonna go back to compressor setting around 50. Probably good enough. So we looked at Shimmer. Analog mix is you have for the dry wet, there is an analog VCA and a digital volume control. You can choose. So right now we're using the analog VCA there. Now morph. Morph is for a slow transition between presets. So right now it's set to 3. That's about 3 seconds. So if I were to go back here and I can change to happy snap, look what happens. It took about 3 seconds to transition. Also, all of the parameters on the panel, they slowly, like almost as if I had 10 hands to turn each knob to the position where they belong on the next preset. Or whatever preset you choose, because you can just scroll through the presets and you only change when you click on it, see? So now we just morphed into the Rumbler preset. Now we can go back to our original Great Eye. You can do some really interesting things that way. In fact, you can program, go back into the menu, there's a foot switch here, and you can program 3 different actions on a foot switch that you could plug into this. Single tap, double tap, and hold. And each one of those you can assign to a number of different things. Right? One of them being the bypass, which on this, there's not a dedicated button for bypass, but there's a shift button. The back button becomes a shift button when you use it combined with something else. So back and freeze is bypass. That's off. So you can assign that to a foot switch if you want to, and then it becomes basically a pedal, right? Now back with tap tempo becomes MIDI clock sync, right? So I have the LXR02 here, which shares much of the form factor. It's also made by Eric Synths with Sonic Potions, and it's a digital drum machine. I have it MIDI'd to the Echolocator so that I can sync it. If you're playing with a drummer, for example, you can tap the tempo there and right? Because the drummer's probably not synced to a digital clock unless they have a click in their ear. But if you do have a drum machine, right, you can hit the tap tempo here, the back and tap tempo. So now this is synchronized. Right, but the time is very slow, so this is a multiplication of the time, or division rather. No, multiplication, right? That's what makes it long. I can change it to something faster. Right now, the time knob becomes multiplication division of the incoming clock. So it's always going to be synced. Let's add some modulation. Here's some orbit. Make it a little crazy. See, you change the kit here a little bit. So load kit. This is such a fun drum machine. Such a fun pedal. Well, sorry, I keep calling it a pedal. It's not a pedal. It's a desktop effects unit. You can set the filter to go also in your feedback path rather than on the output like this. But first, let's freeze this. See, I've frozen it now. That's the freeze button. You can also assign the freeze button to a foot switch. Alright, let's unfreeze and do something different. Let's add some shimmer there. Let's make the stereo a little more radical. And once you freeze it, you can still affect that frozen buffer there with the filter, right? And now it won't die ever because it's frozen. By the way, the input gain goes all the way from 0 dB line level, right? to plus 24 dB, so you can plug a guitar or bass straight into it. I'm not. I'm using my HX Stomp there just to give the bass a little EQ and compression before it hits the Echolocator. Doesn't really need it. Just a little bit more control of my sound there. So again, if I go into the menu here and go into effect, I can change the filter. Right now it's on post, I can make it feedback. So now it's only affecting the feedback path. So my dry sound is still, full range, but only the feedback. And I can do a different, like brighter there, well, darker here, even darker. I happen to prefer post because it's more synthy, see? A little bit more modulation there, subtle, slow. Very cool. And there's some MIDI controls here. You can choose the MIDI channel, and you can turn on MIDI output so that you can record the MIDI CC values into your DAW of all the knobs, or most of the knobs. So you can create automation that way, edit it, send it back, sync it up with your production. So of course it's not just for use with a bass or a guitar or a synthesizer. You can use it as a production tool if you compose and produce. And it sounds really great with fretless too. Check it out. I have my MG bass guitar's Infinity Ghost on standby over here, waiting for action. Check out this beauty. This is handmade with fine woods. Quite a unique instrument, handmade by my friend Mauricio Costa, also Brazilian like me. So I've saved a couple of presets. This thing has a lot of really cool factory presets. Which are fun to explore. Some will be better than others for each particular use case and instrument, right? Some are more for production, some are more for drum sounds or synth sounds. Others will work great for bass or guitar. Even voice, right? I can imagine myself having a lot of fun with just a microphone and the Echolocator. You can easily save your own presets too. Like once you've changed everything up, you can go to the patch menu here and click Save As, right? And then it'll open up a page for you to put a name down, and then you can save it in one of the memory slots that are for users. So that's 52 and up, I think. So let's see. The last one is 51, the last factory one. It's called Ambientizer. Let's hear what that sounds like. Very cool. Now I made one, I just call it Q1 just to be quick, you know, just Quincas 1. Later maybe I'll rename it. Oh, isn't that a lovely morph? I like this one because it's crazy, but it emphasizes, prioritizes your playing. So when I play, you really hear that note, and then as I let go, you hear the madness. So it doesn't drown out my live sound. And then I let go. There you have it, the madness. So this is more of like a weird experimental kind of a thing. And then I have Q2, which I made during my practice session for this recording. And this one is amazing, it's very synth-like. Great for film scoring, right? Like sci-fi, fantasy kind of a... Who would have thought you could use a bass guitar to score a movie, right? To score a sci-fi or... With the Echolocator, you can. You can score a meditation session. You know, take people on a deep exploration with your amazing sounds, improvising on your bass and the Echolocator. So that'll be it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the Echolocator by Synths and 112 dB. I've been using the LXR02 drum machine, also by Synths. HX Stomp, just to give me a little EQ and compression. This is the Infinity Ghost fretless 6-string bass. I was also using the EHB 1505S short scale 5-string headless ergonomic bass by Ibanez. Some of my favorite instruments, and I've had a lot of fun. I could just go on all night, but I don't want to bore you, so I'll just leave it at this for now. Thank you for watching. See you soon, and stay musical.